Audrey Belrose. You either love her or you absolutely hate her. I happen to be in the former group, and today I'm going to explain exactly why that is. Now, when I say that I love Audrey, it's a bit more complicated than that. I don't love the fictional character itself, of course, but I can relate and feel for Audrey so much that if she were real, I assume that I'd fall in love, or at least would want to be friends with her. But why is this? I know she's not real, but the feeling invoked in me when I think about her is. Before I go into the reasons why I love Audrey, we have to look at how a person can love a fictional character. The major reason why a person would love a fictional character in the first place is because of a little thing called empathy. In the web article, The Psychology of Fandom, Why We Get Attached to Fictional Characters by Abby Norman, she explains that one thing that helps us empathize with family and friends is trying to fill in the details of what we don't know about their situation. If you've watched my HuniePop review, then you'd know that analyzing the characters in that game is one of my favorite things to do. I love to fill in the empty histories of the girls based on what I know, so it makes sense for me to feel empathetic for the one girl that I love to think about the most, Audrey. Oddly enough, Audrey has very little canonical background in the game itself, but I think about her possible history the most. I think of reasons as to why she is the way she is, and I suppose, in a way, that's me making up my own headcanon for Audrey. Norman describes headcanons as another way that we flesh out the details of these characters' lives as we attempt to understand and ultimately feel for them on some level. So my love for Audrey comes from me filling in the blanks of her character. However, am I just filling in those blanks with bullshit, or do I actually have an understanding of who Audrey is? Well, you be the judge as I show you what I have made to be my personal headcanon for Audrey Belrose. First, let me give you a good idea of who Audrey is by showing you the first encounter that we have with Audrey in-game. We see her and our hairdresser, Kiana, arguing about Kiana's abilities as a hairdresser. Seeing Audrey become this mad over something as simple as how somebody cuts her hair isn't a great first impression. She openly calls Kiana a skank, a whore, a hoe, a whore again, and finally after she walks away, a whore-ass bitch. Then Kiyu proceeds to label Audrey as a mega bitch. So, looking over the conversation, what have we learned about Audrey? Well, for starters, she's a bitch. There's no getting around that. She's unpleasant, selfish, and openly voices her complaints about things in a very loud way. What else have we learned? She has high self-confidence. Anybody who bitches like Audrey has to think that their shit smell like flowers. Also, just look at her. Audrey's pretty attractive and she seems to know this very well, which is a big contributor to her high self-confidence. She's a person who cares deeply about her appearance, and her effort to maintain it shows. Audrey's friend Nikki comments on Audrey saying, "My friend Audrey is hot, but she's such a bitch." So although Nikki doesn't necessarily like Audrey all that much, she still admits that she's hot. It's a canonically undeniable fact that Audrey is incredibly attractive. I said that Audrey has high self-confidence, and I believe what I said, although I believe Audrey doubts herself in places. Mainly, she doubts her personality. She knows that not a lot of people really like her, so she compensates by putting what she lacks in a pleasant personality into her appearance. Despite this, she doesn't try to change her personality for others. She doesn't believe in lying to others or yourself about who you are to impress society. She can't stand fake-ass hoes. Keeping all of what I just said in mind, it makes sense for Audrey to bitch at Kiana like that. If Audrey can't keep up her appearance, then what else would she have? An underwhelming hairdo would threaten the one positive thing she undoubtedly has about herself, her appearance. So that's the reason why she bitches at Kiana. Whether or not you think it excuses her actions doesn't matter. That's not the question here. I'm just giving the reasons as to why she does the things she does. However, that's not everything we can learn from the conversation. Audrey uses the words whore, hoe, and skank as insults to Kiana. The fact that she uses the words as insults show how little she thinks of those kinds of people. The kind of people who will just give themselves to anyone and treat sex as this fun, casual pastime. Surprisingly, out of all the girls in HuniePop, Audrey is the most sexually reserved. She has the tamest date photos by far, is a virgin before she has sex with the player, and notably talks about how the player has to try if they want to get inside her. But what does she mean by this? When giving her gifts, she can say various voice lines telling the player that just because they bought her nice things, that doesn't mean she's just gonna throw herself at you. And in one of her messages, she explains how she sent one guy home because he kept buying her things in the hopes that it would land him some puss. So Audrey makes it abundantly clear that buying her things won't land you some of her sweet French honeypot. Then what does she want from a lover? Well, to answer that, we have to look into Audrey's lifestyle. Audrey parties all night, does drugs, smokes cigars, downs alcohol, eats junk food, sleeps in way too late, and thinks school is a waste of time and money because it's boring. Why does Audrey prioritize having fun over everything including her own well-being? A big part of it is because she has so much trouble when it comes to actually enjoying life. She says that even after she does drugs, she's still bored. The drugs don't give her enjoyment, at least not anymore. Audrey has a hole in her life, a hole that she just doesn't know how to fill, so she tries filling it with everything. All the drugs, all the alcohol, all the partying and having fun. She doesn't know what she needs, and she's desperately trying to find out what it is. However, what she's missing is the one thing that's the hardest for her to receive. Love. Audrey's a bitch. Sure as hell nobody's buying Audrey all that stuff because they like her personality. Audrey knows this. She knows that guys buy her stuff because of her looks and nothing else. That's why she feels justified in taking advantage of their willingness to buy her stuff. She knows they only want her body and they're trying to buy it as if she were some kind of whore. They're trying to take advantage of her, so in turn she's going to take advantage of them. Audrey's learned this from past experiences. She's been taken advantage of before. She's given her love and care to people who took them and threw them on the ground. She's had her heart broken. This is why she's a bitch. She's defensive. She's not going to let anybody come emotionally close to her unless they show that they really do love and care for her. She knows that it's going to take a lot of effort for somebody to love and stick with her, so she finds it attractive whenever someone seems like they're actually putting in the effort to do so. This is shown when the player first talks to Audrey. She takes immediate note that they put in effort to talk with her. It's the first thing she looks for whenever a guy is trying to hook up with her, and she's pleased when it happens. She wants a guy who cares about her. You can see this when she asks the player what they'd do if they saw her with another guy. When the player says that they would most likely attack the man, she's pleased. She's also happy to know that the player doesn't talk to any of their exes. Both of these responses support the idea that Audrey wants a man who will value her greatly and won't leave her for anyone else. Somebody who will protect her, love her, and cherish her. This is who the player has to be if they want to hook up with Audrey. So now that we know who Audrey is, what her lifestyle's like, and what her desires are, what exactly is it that makes me love Audrey? Well, I said it in the beginning of the video. I empathize with Audrey. I can empathize with a person who has high self-confidence but doubts their self in places. I can empathize with a person who spends their days feeling like something's missing from their life and they just don't know what. I can empathize with a person who's been taken advantage of before. I can empathize with a person who believes in being yourself and gets a bad reputation because of who they are. I can empathize with a person who just needs a little love. However, what I feel goes beyond petty empathy. I feel scared for Audrey. In HuniePop, Audrey isn't entirely gone down the road of self-destruction. She's wary to try actual hardcore drugs. She hasn't resorted to using casual sex to try and obtain the pleasures that she's missing. She's still in school despite how much she hates it, and she still wants to hang out with her friends. But that won't last forever. I'm scared that if Audrey doesn't get some love to fill her empty hole, then she'll slowly kill herself with increasingly self-destructive behavior. We can see this happen in the spin-off game, Honeycamp Studio. Audrey's bio reads as such. After realizing that the last person she opened her heart to was cheating on her with like 10 other chicks, Audrey developed a bitter hatred of men and fell to hard drugs to escape the emotional pain. That's sad. It makes me sad to see this happen to somebody I care about so much. Honeycamp Studio is non-canonical, but we can see a glimpse of this in HuniePop. Audrey says that she's thinking about dropping out of school. That'll be the start of her decline into despair. First, she drops out of school to focus on partying, and then she'll start taking up harder drugs, more alcohol, and who knows what else until finally, well, you know. All of which will happen to a girl who's just scared and alone. Audrey doesn't know what to do with her life. She doesn't know where to go. She just needs someone to guide her in the right direction. Someone to make her realize that she doesn't need all that partying and substance abuse to enjoy life. She just needs some love. I guess in a way you could say that I wanna save Audrey. Don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to paint myself as a hero. I wouldn't want to change who Audrey is. Just maybe I could convince her to stay in school and cut down on the vices a little. Really though, I just want to be in a loving relationship with Audrey. I want to do things together with Audrey that'll make her smile and laugh. I want to go to the beach with Audrey and marvel at the sun setting over the ocean. I want to go see a horror movie with Audrey and let her cling onto my arm during the scary parts. I want to walk through a forest during a snowfall with Audrey and then have hot chocolate with her next to a warm fireplace. I want to sit on a grassy hill and watch fireworks with Audrey. I want to go out to dinner with Audrey and try new foods together. I want to lie in bed with Audrey as she rests her head on my chest so we fall asleep in our pajamas together with the TV left on. I want to go to the mall with Audrey and carry her shopping bags while she takes 15 minutes deciding what kind of shirt to buy. I want to wake up next to Audrey and see her tired face first thing in the morning. I want to share popcorn with Audrey. I want Audrey to fall into my arms and cry into my shoulder until my shirt's wet, embracing her and running one of my hands through her hair. I want to tell her, everything will be okay.